Hey, it's been a little longer than I anticipated. But hi, well, by the time this uploads, even if I upload it right after or whenever I'm done blabbing, it'll be May. Uh, April was some month, huh? Oh. You think of April to some extent March, depending on different things, you tend to be told of it as like a turning point from winter to spring, from deadness to life, and this doesn't feel like any of that. This has felt, if anything, it's felt like either, at best, it's kind of a stagnation of life. And that's at best. Most of us, it's been a decrease of some variety, whether it's mental health, whether it's jobs, and school, and sports, and hobbies, and interactions with our loved ones and our friends. I mean, still, even as places will gradually relax this, that, and the other, the ramifications of what we have collectively and individually experienced in our communities, in our states and countries and all these things, as people, will far surpass whatever the new normal is. The normal that we had early March, heading into March, whatever the case may be, depending on where you are or were at the time, it's not going to be the same. There's no magic wand that just makes these last couple of months disappear. As I mentioned, during talking about different things, nothing. I look back on other significant events in my life and in the lives of those that I know, that I'm thankful to still know, or even those that I know that I've lost friendship with, or am not as close to, or whatever. I've ventured enough experiences, and I've had enough experiences to know that nothing is wasted. And what I mean is, yes, we can waste time. Yes, we can misplace things and this and that. But like when we did not, and we are not continuing to experience the ramifications of it, with knowing people who are sick, knowing people who have passed away, knowing people whose separate medical problems have been kind of ignored or tucked aside, or whatever the case may be, people who have lost their jobs, people who have lost their businesses, people who have lost connection to loved ones because they can't risk losing them forever, so they temporarily distance themselves, which is a sense of losing. All the many things that I know that my feeble mind and my small window of experiences don't understand and can't relate to. None of it, regardless of what it is, none of it is wasted. It all has purpose. It's not going to all make sense. There's not even a guarantee that while we walk for however much longer, our individual walks and our collective walks as individuals and as people here are, and it's not a guarantee that we will find out all of the reasons why we experience either the collective experience of all going through this quarantine and all going through these losses of jobs and mobility and whatever, and all the lessons that we collectively have learned as people, and as wherever you may find yourself and the people around you, but also individually, what you have learned in being in the slowing down of life and the distancing from people and the extra time that has opened up. None of that is going to be wasted, because if you're experiencing life, you're learning from it. Or there's some way that it's shaping you now, that it's preparing you for something else. You'll be like, I'm glad I went through this now, as difficult as it was, as painful as it was, as little as it made any gosh dang sense on any given day or any given night. I'm glad I experienced that, or it served a purpose, or it had a meaning because of this, that, and the other thing, whatever the case may be. Maybe this And for some, perhaps this time frame, this slowing down and extra time and all the other things has been like, the ability to pause and reflect on the last several months or the last year or the last few years, on relationships and friendships and bonds with family and job possibilities and the career path or school path that you're taking or whatever the case may be, and giving you it's been definitely, at the very least, some sort of reassessing is happening in individuals' lives and in families' lives and in collective groups' lives all over the place. So if you feel like that you're the only one dealing with some sort of mix of like, man, I really needed this time to slow down so I could look at these things from a different perspective. With more time, I can pick up hobbies that I just ignored, that I missed, or I can reevaluate the choices that led me to the point that I was at before all this, and see if I'm needed to make changes anyways. If this is an opportunity, because it's going to be a bit of a reset for a lot of people, if this is an opportunity to be like, okay, maybe I don't need to go back to that. Maybe I need to go do this instead, or go towards that instead. Maybe I need to go closer to family, or rekindle an old friendship, or go make amends with people you've wronged or who wronged you, or whatever the case may be. Perhaps this has been that time. This has been that time where you were like, I'm glad I went through things I experienced prior to this, so that now that I'm having the time to think about it, I can really learn from it and process it. Because we go so fast. We were going so fast. We were going, the instant culture that we have developed in many parts of where we are, in many areas of our life, everything being immediately available, communication being almost immediate, all of these things, the constant sound, the constant visual capturing of life, the constant need of being connected. And now we pause. We had to. I mean, sure, some of that connection still happened because now you can't see the people in person. You had to reroute, and that maybe perhaps allowed you to be like, okay, how do I go about this? And the reason this video has been all over the place is because sometimes you need to do that. Sometimes you need to be like, man, this picture is so big. Because you watch the news, or you go on social media, or you go online, and you feel like it's the same things, and the same stories, and the same narratives, and the same arguments. But there are 7+ billion people on this planet. And most of my audience is from the United States, and there's 300 million plus just here. Just in the States. All with their own stories, all with their own experiences, and regardless of the fact that we're all dealing with this, that is something we have in common, and I've mentioned that before, but we are all dealing with this from different perspectives, different walks of life, with different backgrounds, with different paths that led us here, and different paths that we will choose, and some of which may be chosen in some degree for us, based on what opens back up and all the other things that are out of our control and the things that are in our control. Because you have to remember, as much as everything feels like it's just piling up and out of your control, and a lot of things are, some of it isn't. If you're allowing this time, then some places are starting to ease back into something of a life, and this is gonna take time. Regardless of what, all that nonsense that I keep away from this channel as much as possible. Regardless of what you think about how everything is, it's going to take time. That much everybody can agree to. And in doing so, we have to remember that regardless of how long any of this takes to bounce back from, to build forward from, to learn from, whatever, we all get one day at a time. That's all we get. That's all anybody gets. This is a great equalizer. Nobody is promised tomorrow. We all get one day at a time. I do, anybody watching does, anybody not watching does. What are we doing with the days that we're given? Don't be too hard on yourself if you feel like you're not being productive with every single one. We're dealing with pretty extraordinary measures. It's okay to rest sometimes. And probably for some of us, for some people, we weren't resting, and now that we've given the opportunity to, we're so used to not resting, whether it's mental or in the physical going of sense or whatever, and we don't know what to do, and this has been teaching us something about that. There are so many different directions this video could continue to go about what this is teaching any given person, because we are so beautifully unique and yet wonderfully connected, in that we are all people, and God loves each one of us. And everything we're dealing with right now, if you get nothing else, everything we're dealing with right now has purpose. It is okay to pause. It is okay to have time where you're not on social media trying to keep up with all the people you can't see. It's okay to have time to not be inside because I mean, you can go out the front. A lot of people can still go out their front door. A lot of people can still go out their side. There's the opportunity is there. You can still take what you can from this time, because this is going to be one of a kind. We don't get this time back any more than we got the time before back. It's not this. January 2020 is just as gone as April 2020 will be by the time this gets up and going. And they are two completely different months. I don't know about you, but for me they were two completely different months. But they're both equally gone. All we're given is one day at a time. Don't think it doesn't mean anything. Don't think that it's not going to pass or that it's not going to get better. Keep going. This is as much as it feels like we're all in this together, as much as TV and people want to push this, it doesn't change. Just because someone else says that we are all in this together does not mean that each of us will believe that, or that each of us doesn't struggle with that concept, because for some it's physical and interpersonal reaction, communication and things like that, and of course, people who struggle with mental health issues and all of this stuff, nobody, regardless of how this is affecting you, you are not alone. You are not alone. You are not in this alone. This will pass. This does have purpose. You are here for such a time as this. Wherever this found you, wherever this is moving you to, and wherever you will end up when this part of this season is over, you were never in it alone. You were never without hope. You were never without purpose. It was never without meaning. And we'll come back and we'll watch this, Lord willing, if it, a year from now, a month from now, a year from now, a few years from now, the Lord gives us all the time. And we'll realize, just as we do when we look back, that everything had a purpose, that everything had meaning, and we learn from it, and we rejoice in it, we laugh at the things that we didn't need to stress so much about, and it's extraordinary, but it's survivable. It's survivable in the sense that you're not alone. It's out of our control, but you're not the only one that it's out of control of. And you can get through this. There's a lot of what leads to stuff with videos like this a lot of times is I go on social media, same as anybody, and I see a lot of the same things that you do. Fear and arguing and generally pointless or fruitless conversation. Not in a sense that it's lighthearted and it talks about things that maybe don't ultimately matter, but like conversation that doesn't build up, doesn't bring people together, doesn't... I mean, people can disagree and still be kind. People can see things from a different point of view and still love one another, and there's not a lot of that everywhere. And if I could just help, I can't make anyone do anything. If I could just help one person be encouraged, then I'll go to sleep happy. And if it happens to be more than one, I mean, it's all God anyways. I've been there. And I get there when it feels like that. Regardless of how good things are around me, regardless of how bad things are around me, I get to a point where I feel like if it's good, I can't share it with anybody because who cares? And if it's bad, then I can't share it with anybody but because, they're dealing with something worse. And like this, there are people who have a lot more going on as a result of this than I do. But I know that if we can find things in common and start from there and overcome, disagreements and overcome the disparity and the tribalism of content and concepts and things that are out there and arguments that are out there that don't help anybody, that are just for likes and clicks and attention, which that nobody should want or desire, but that bring people to a point where they can see that there is hope. If you turn on the news, you're not going to usually find hope. If you go on certain circles of social media, you're not going to find hope. So if you can find it here, then I'll have made a difference. And even though it's not about me, if I can bring someone else to the point where they can start overflowing or at least find where God is placing them, where God can build their strengths and show them hope, and that they can use whatever God has given them, because not everyone has the same skill set, and then God will push them to that direction so they can pass it forward. Then it will outlive me, and I can be just a number, just another person, and that will be okay. But I want people to see that they are not alone and that this matters in the sense that that there is meaning to it. And it's not all bad, terrible, overbearing, overwhelming, fearful meaning to it. That God is still in control. And even if you don't believe in Him, and it's okay to have that disagreement, I don't see why you can't be a friend of someone just because they don't believe. If you don't believe, then you can come here and find a place where you can be like, hey, there's somebody who's trying to reach across the aisle and show kindness in a world where there's not a lot of that, even among people who should be agreeing with each other. I mean, we all want to get through this. Just be kind. Just be kind. This got off the rails a little quickly, but that's okay. I'm nothing if not willing to share. Thank you if you've made it this far. Wow. We made it through April. We made it through April. And if we can make it through the month that we made it through and the month before that, then it bodes well that we can get through just about anything that life will throw at us. Just keep going, please. Just comment if you need anything you want to pray for or whatever. Everyone has someone in their circles. Now that people have more time, you're not alone. So keep going, and I'll see you in the next video, Lord willing.